Why are you sitting in your room reading, you loser? Not ideal by any means, but like, meh. All thumbs, F tier. Nah. Smoker. Always. Always, baby. Always need, always need them SIGs. Slow reader is good and you are foolish for wasting 4 points on fast reader. Alternative. What if I don't take fast reader? I actually don't know where to put that one. I was about to have a silly moment. So, agoraphobic is one that I only take when I'm like making joke builds. It's one that I mostly don't touch. It only induces panic, and I don't think panic is necessarily terrible. I mean, there's a litany of things that are going to reduce your damage. So it's not ideal, but it's not like the end of the world. You could just run away from the fight. That's an option. So I don't think you're foolish for taking agoraphobic. I think it's a preference thing between agoraphobic and claustrophobic. However, I will not be ranking claustrophobic on the same level. That's a spoiler for later. Don't worry about it. Because next, I think it's called All Thumbs. Yep, All Thumbs. This is a 400% inventory transferring time. Think about that. If you think that it's slow to transfer items now, especially big items like logs, planks, that type of thing, then times that by 400. Or just 4, I think. Maybe that's how math works. I barely passed geometry. This is one that I would call foolish. I think if you take All Thumbs, it's gotta be a meme. It's gotta be. All Thumbs, F tier. Nah. I'm not gonna say there's gonna be a lot of S tier negative traits, but I think All Thumbs is one of my few, like, super do not take these. So, on to Asthmatic. Asthmatic is a 140% running / sprinting and 130% swing endurance loss. You're going to get tired a little faster with Asthmatic. I don't normally touch this one. I don't usually take it, and frankly, if you're going to be doing a lot of running and sprinting, a lot of fighting with swinging, I would not take it. However, I personally would think that Asthmatic is fine for a gun build. If you're rushing guns, and if you're going to get guns day one, like that's your top priority, sure. So I would then put it in decent. I think that's where I would put Asthmatic. And I'm going to get flack for that because my ranking system isn't like everyone else's. But I'm okay with that. I can take it. Claustrophobic. Enters panic when indoors. Not putting it in doo-doo. I take claustrophobic quite a bit because you're not going to spend a ton of time indoors. And if you are indoors, frankly, I don't think 9 times out of 10, I don't think that you are fighting indoors intentionally. I think you enter a house to loot and there's a couple zombies, fight them, take care of it, it's fine. I don't think anybody is specifically looping zombies into a building just to fight indoors unless you're like farming for a key. And even that I think they patched out, which don't quote me on that because last stream I did, last weekend, I did the same thing and it wasn't patched out. Maybe they just nerfed it a bit, I don't know. But I would put claustrophobic in manageable. And not to say it's bad, not to say it's good, not to say it's mid, it's just manageable. As of right now, as far as I know, you can fast forward time next to your bed, and if you're quick with it, you can right click and hit sleep, and that happens before the panic modal comes back. They may have patched that. I took a bit of a break, I don't know. So, the use case, I guess, is just an extra 4 points, there you go, you're fine. You need alcohol to sleep indoors when claustrophobic. I think you also need like beta blockers. You could do alcohol, beta blockers, or fast forward time. Whichever one you really want to do. Fast forwarding time is free, no resources besides your time. Oh yeah, sleeping pills too. Fast forwarding was patched. Clumsy. I don't think I take clumsy very often. But it is a 120% footstep sound radius, 110% chance to trip while running or sprinting, or while run/sprint vaulting a low fence or lunging zombies. So, I don't take clumsy very often. I don't think the +2 is worth it in regards to if you're gonna lunge zombies, if you're gonna vault a fence. I'm not vaulting fences very often. Usually when I vault a fence, it's an accident. So, feels cool though, I'll tell you that much. So I would +2 points for a higher sound radius and a chance to trip. I'm gonna put it in doo-doo. Not in foolish, but in doo-doo, because I don't think 120, I don't think 110, I don't think those are very high percentages, unless I'm super wrong on how the math is done. And I think it's very situational, because if you are lunging zombies is only one of many ways to take care of zombies. Vaulting a low fence can be avoided. The sound radius, whatever. Zombies are gonna see you regardless. Like, I don't think you're foolish for taking it, but I do think it's not a good negative trait. Now this one's conspicuous. For 4 points, it's a 200% chance of getting spotted by zombies. Like I said, you're gonna get spotted regardless. And kind of up to you what you do with that one. I would never call this one manageable. I don't think I'd ever call it a B tier. It's kind of mid, just overall. I'm putting clumsy in C. What was I on now? Conspicuous, right. I still prefer inconspicuous on the positive side, but I don't think that it is terrible. 200% sounds daunting, but I don't think it's awful. And for 4 points is pretty middle of the road. A lot of my negative traits that I take, I think, are around that area. I actually don't know where to put that one. Because if it's just 2 times, and I mean, you're gonna get spotted by zombies regardless, I have never had a run where I don't get spotted by zombies. Maybe that's just on me. I think I'd put conspicuous in like B. I feel like a 2 times chance of getting spotted is manageable at best. I think that's where I land with it, for sure. Cowardly. Oh, dude. Easy clap. A 200% panic except for night terrors and phobias. For +2, cowardly. I feel like I might be a bit of a hypocrite, actually. 2x panic except for night terrors and phobias. So what? Like, what's it gonna change? You're gonna get a, what? At max panic, you're gonna get a 50% debuff to your damage. It's like, and? I think that's all I gotta say about cowardly, man. I take it almost all the time. It's like, it's pretty much a go-to. Next one I think is hard of hearing, and that's just a decreased perception radius for 4 points. I would say if you're new to the game, don't take it. If you are not new to the game, if you're a bit more experienced and you can kind of hold your own a little bit, I would probably lean towards taking it. I don't know if I would call it manageable or if I'd just call it all right. I play with hard of hearing a bit. I think where I run is manageable. I think that's where I land. Disorganized. I hate disorganized because I'm always hoarding things. I'm always just grabbing everything intrinsically. My wife helps me balance that out a little bit, but I despise having no inventory capacity. I despise having no container capacity. I hate disorganized. What I hate more is when I'm not thinking about taking organized and my buddy takes organized just to like overload his truck and I can't do anything about it. I can't even sit in the seats. That being said, I'm putting disorganized in doo-doo. I don't think anybody who takes it is goofy. I do think it's a bad trait though. I'll stand by that for sure. I don't know. That's kind of weird. That can't be very underweight. That has to be something else. Emaciated, I think it's called. It's not a trait you can take, but you can get it. Okay, so it's something that you can eventually get. If it's emaciated, right? And you get emaciated, you did something wrong. You messed up. I think that's pretty fair. Did I do something wrong here? I did. I hate that these are like the exact same. Hard of hearing goes right here. This is deaf, which I'm putting in foolish. So deaf, you can't hear the sound. There's a tiny perception radius for plus 12 points, mind you, but I mean, no one's really taking this expecting a successful run, right? Like, it's a challenge thing. It's for people who want some difficulty in the game. In an already difficult game, mind you. So I'm not. Now, my spelling conundrum being wrong doesn't really change much. Chat is like a minute slow. Yeah, there's not a lot I can do about that. It's that's an internet thing. I don't have the capability to fix that. Not yet, anyway. And you can help me get there faster by subscribing. Please. So let's see. This next one is feeble, which is just -2 strength for plus 6 points. I never take it. I'm usually trying to get my strength up as high as possible, or at least to like a reasonable amount. But if you wanted to, you could always get those points back. I don't think these negate how much your fitness can go up. There was some language in this list that had said like underweight and overweight like reduced your max amount of fitness. I don't know how honest that is. But I'm putting it in doo-doo. Putting it in doo-doo. Is that really the thing for hearty appetite? I guess it is. Regardless, hearty appetite just raises your hunger by 50%, technically. I usually take it. I don't think it really matters. It's kind of just alright. Like, I think that's our first A tier. I don't have much to say about that. It doesn't do a lot. If you're not at a point in Zomboid where you have an abundance of food, you did something wrong. You have house after house after house of opportunities for food. You have so many restaurants, so many diners, which you could say is a restaurant. I consider them separate things. You have canned food, you have farming, you have trapping. Food is probably one of the most abundant resources in the game. Party appetite doesn't change much, you know? I don't think so anyway. That's just my take. You don't gotta agree with me. However, you do need to agree with me on this. The fear of blood. Your stress will increase when you see blood. I have not really taken that trait. I don't really ever... It's not something that really sounds like it would affect me, you know? Because you can just take fear of blood and smoker, and it'll balance out, honestly. And I think for that reason, right? If your stress is increasing, but you take smoker, in this one scenario, even if you don't take smoker, you can read books, read magazines, do whatever. Magazines are so light and so effective. And then I think beer cans also reduce your stress. And beer cans are just medicine on steroids. You can forego all medicine that you find and just pick up a whole lot of beer. And you're fine in this game. So I would put this... I would put it in manageable. For those reasons, I'd put it in manageable. For sure. High thirst. For plus 6 points, you get ×2 thirst. I know you're not always going to have water in the game. How many of you survive past water going out? Oh, sorry. High thirst is 100%. Just take it. A ×2 thirst is whatever. You're not always going to have access to water. However, you kind of will. It's a trade-off where how far are you willing to travel to collect water before you have a system set up to collect the rain. And if you settle down in a densely populated area, you're going to have so many sinks, baths, toilet bowls if you're brave. It's just gonna, you're gonna be all right. You're gonna be fine. Therefore, the ×2 thirst, not a problem at all. Prone to illness. A +4 trait for a 125% progression rate of zombification, a 170% chance of catching a cold, 120% cold strength, and 150% cold progression speed. Basically meaning a 25%, 70%, 20%, 50%. Not as big as it sounds. I usually take prone to illness. I don't prioritize it by any means, and I think that's why I'm going to put it in A. But usually when I'm playing Zomboid, my rate of zombification is 30 seconds. So if I can bump that up by 25%, I'm gonna do it. I know that a lot of the beauty in the game is playing out that, dread of you're going to die, so what are your last days gonna look like? Are you going to, go out in a blaze of glory? Are you going to try to mitigate your symptoms, etc., etc.? But I don't care. That's just me. Okay. Illiterate. I don't think I need to explain what illiterate means, but for +8 points, you can't read. So you would need to really plan out your build. You would need to take mechanic or the repairman trait. You would need to take something that lets you interact with generators. Now in build 42, I think that would be gone. You could take illiterate and not have to rely on that. You could just work on your electrical skill until it gets high enough that you can just work generators. However, I think there's a much bigger thing to think about there than just, hey, I can't read the generator magazine. I can't read, you can't read anything. No skill books. No multipliers. There's no magazines, crossword puzzles, books. So there's no stress relief there. There's no happiness coming from a little bit of escapism. Now, however, you absolutely can, you can take illiterate and do the most important thing with newspapers, which is make a hat. So I think once build 42 hits, I'd put illiterate up at decent, probably. But we aren't on build 42, are we? Obese is a +10 points for a -2 fitness. A max fitness of 6 is what it says here, but I'm not sure. I assume that means while you have the trait, and once you hit 6 fitness, you lose the trait. Don't quote me on that. I don't know. You have a reduced run speed and endurance. Your starting weight is 105, and anything above 100 is where obese is present. So it says here. Increased chance to trip, fail at climbing tall fences, a 40% endurance regeneration, and 20 more fall damage. So, obese, you can manage it, for sure. I just don't think you should even take it. Like, the alternatives are much better than that. I feel like, if you don't know what I mentioned earlier, how you can only lose 3 kilograms of weight a day, as opposed to gaining more a day, then if you don't know that, then obese and underweight seem like equal opportunity here. But I do know that. And so for the plus 10, it's not worth it. I think I would put that in foolish. You can gain 3 kilograms per day and lose 1 kilogram per day. Okay, so I was getting some numbers mixed up. You really only lose 1 a day? For real? I guess I was being like really generous. Out of shape. For 6 points, you get a -2 fitness. Meh. For 6 points, a -2 fitness is... It's not great. -2 fitness is not fantastic at all. But for 6 points, you take -2 fitness. Wait, you just run a little bit. You know, you just run, lift some weights. It feels like for 6 points, a -2 fitness should not be bad, you know? And maybe I just don't know how integral fitness is. Maybe that's on me. Out of shape is... I want to put it somewhere between decent and doo-doo. Fitness is very cool in Pog. True, and for that reason only, I'll put it in doo-doo. Yeah. Now, for overweight, I feel a lot of the same as I feel for obese. I was trying to say Moldra in my head as I was saying obese, so that was great. Okay, I feel for overweight the same way I feel for obese. Given the fact that we have underweight and very underweight, there is no real reason to take obese or overweight, because, again, you lose weight slower than you gain it in this game. And it's sort of just whatever. Like, let me check here real quick, right? You have a max fitness of 9 with overweight, and your starting weight is 90. This says a 1% slower running speed. I think that was an issue, probably a mistype. But max fitness of 9, starting weight 90. Where is underweight on here? Wow, pretty much nothing. Okay, you get an 80% melee damage with underweight. For overweight, you don't get anything against your starting damage. Okay, that is about the only thing I think overweight and obese have going for them. You don't get a disadvantage to your damage. You do get pretty okay debuff with underweight and very underweight. But again, I don't think that changes anything because you can get rid of them so much faster. You know? Yeah, exactly, Salty. Overweight has 1 edge over underweight. The initial fitness penalty is lower. I think if you're going to take one or the other, you should take overweight rather than obese. So I won't put it in F, but it will go in D. So now we've got Pacifist. You get a 75% XP of melee and aiming skill. So you, instead of getting the full 100, you only get 75. I don't think Pacifist is that bad. I'm putting it in alright. For 4 points, you just get a little bit of your melee and aiming skill taken away. Whatever. Take Fast Learner. Pacifist has one hell of a negative though. Maintenance is a weapon skill that doesn't get a boost from Fast Learner. No, it doesn't. But I've never noticed it. I mean, weapon maintenance has never been a big, like, top-of-mind thing when I'm playing Zomboid, because I have access to just so many weapons. And, you know, I think it's kind of a Breath of the Wild thing where, like, you get so many weapons that it doesn't matter. It's just a little bit annoying. Restless Sleeper. Plus 6 points. You sleep for fewer hours each time and slower loss of tiredness when sleeping. Blech. Blech. I hate it. I'll take Sleepyhead every day of the week. But... Restless Sleeper, whatever. I can't justify taking it. I don't think I can. Because it's just plus 6 points, and I think with the builds I take, I usually find... I don't try to, like, maximize how many positive traits I can get. I just kind of take the ones I like, and that's it. So I'm not really hurting to start grabbing negative traits just because. So this one I don't really see much of a reason to take, just period. I don't think it's terrible. I don't think I'd put it in F. Not even sure I'd put it in D. I think I'd put it in C. And... I have here, C says decent, right? And I think what I mean by that is like, you don't really, you know, it doesn't really affect the game. Maybe it does for some people, maybe it doesn't. I don't know. It doesn't for me, because I don't take it. But from what I'm reading, it doesn't really seem like it's going to affect your game very much. You may have to sleep more, you may have to start planning your schedule around like taking more naps. I already do that, so but that's real life. I like Wakeful, so I don't usually use the negative sleep traits. I flip-flop between the two. If I'm not taking Wakeful, I'm taking Sleepyhead. That's just where I'm at with it. Short-sighted. I used to think short-sighted did a lot more than it actually does. It's just a -2 forging radius in search mode, and it can be negated with glasses. And I think it's very obvious why I don't find that to be an issue. I'll give you one guess. I straight up, I'll be real with you, I'm always on that short-sighted grind. Short-sighted, basically free points? Yeah. It's only 2 free points, but I mean, you only have 2 eyes. Doesn't it also narrow the view cone? I thought it did. Because of the way the game says it, I thought it did. But from what I'm reading here, and I mean, I'm kind of taking this as like, they've definitely done their research, guys. No, I guess it doesn't narrow the cone. Now, my boy, Sleepyhead. Oh boy, we're getting into the S's, which is like where most of the traits I take are, funny enough. My gosh, these guys put Sleepyhead in F. For 4 points, you get a 70% tiredness rate. I think that's pretty alright. I'll take it. I think Sleepyhead's manageable, man. You get tired after 6 hours with Sleepyhead? So I'm role-playing myself, okay? Yeah, I mean, it's mid. Like, it's not ideal, but I think you can manage it. I mean, what, you've got coffee in the game, right? That's what I had. Sleepyhead can be annoying when you're constantly slowing down gameplay to go back to base because you're too tired to move. Not F tier, though. Yeah. Trust me, I know how annoying being sleepy all the time is. I feel like it's easy B. So according to this, recently inflicted injuries have more severity. Why'd I say it like that? Whatever. But plus 6 points for all that, which I usually take. It's kind of free points. Like, I think I'd put it in A. No. Based on my descriptors for like alright and manageable, I'm leaning more towards manageable, but I'll go with A. I'll put it in A. Slow healer pretty free? Yeah. Let's see, the brainstem. Which one's the brainstem? Slow learner. F. Foolish. Goofy, even. Why would you take slow learner when you can take fast learner? Slow learner is meathead gym bro RP trait. Yeah, that's where I'm going with it. But if I'm to judge this on its own merit, then I've got to reorder some of my other ones, and I'm not going to do that. So, next is slow reader. Slow reader is 2 trait points for 70% reading speed. Now, it's not terrible, 70%, you're only missing 30% of your speed. But why? How do you... In a game where the first week, the first month is so pivotal, is so integral to surviving, to setting up the rest of your run, why are you sitting in your room reading, you loser? Slow reader is terrible in multi, but god tier in solo. If that's how you feel about it, that's okay. I mean, it's just, it comes down to how you want to play the game, and I don't like playing that way. And that's fine. It's definitely terrible in multiplayer. I'm putting it right here for the thumbnail specifically, because I know I'm gonna wrestle some jimmies with it. And you know, I'll reorder this just so I can make people mad. There we go. Slow reader is good, and you are foolish for wasting 4 points on fast reader. Alternative. What if I don't take fast reader? I'll tell you what I do take though for 4 points. Smoker. Always, baby. Always need them cigs. Stress will constantly, slowly rise. Smoking cigarettes will lower the stress level. Not great, IRL. Kind of hard on the lungs, really doesn't help you with staying alive. But in-game, it looks cool. Something to do at parties. I always take smoker. What can I say? Smoker gang, rise up. True. Chuffing packs right now, brother. You're chuffing right now? Bro, you gotta chill out. Come on. Unless you mean in-game. If you mean in-game, then chuff on. Let me tell you something. If you don't know, for Sunday Driver, for 1 point, just a measly 1 point, you can accelerate your vehicles 40% slower. That is not 40% from the ground up. That is 40% from a base point of 100. So you're coming down 60%. That puts your max speed at 30 kilometers an hour. I'd rather walk. It goes in F, and it stays there. It goes at the very bottom of F, and it stays there. Ridiculous. Sunday Driver should be 5 points. For how slow you go, yeah. Now for 8 points though, you can get thin-skinned, which multiplies the chance of not being injured by a zombie attack by 0.7. What does that mean? Through this whole thing, they've been using math from a base point of 1. So are they saying that you have a 70% chance of not being injured? According to the wiki, it scratches the clothes up faster, counter with outdoorsman. I am gonna look it up. Multiplies the chance of not being injured by a zombie attack by 0.7, base 15% chance, modified by character's weapon skill. What does that mean? Additionally, alters the chance of clothes being damaged by walking through trees to 1 in 3. The flavor text is more helpful than the actual, like, information. Increased chances of scratches, lacerations, or bites breaking the skin. That tells me so much more. You can make an argument for just don't get hit. Exactly, Magic just said it. Thin skin enthusiasts be like, just don't get hit. Actually, and to that extent, I'll put it in manageable. I'm leaning more towards decent, towards C, but for 8 points, I think it's not terrible. I'm going to put it in manageable because I think it's kind of up to preference, and you can just not get hit. But if you try not to get hit forever, you are going to fail. That's the point of the game. For 6 points, you can take underweight, which gives you -1 fitness. Not great, but it's just -1. Your starting weight is 70. You lose it at 75, it looks like. You've got an 80% melee damage, which is just, 20% taken out of you. Not that bad. You've got an increased trip chance and fail at climbing tall fences. I don't like that as much because I do rely on climbing tall fences a lot. I think it's one of the best ways to escape, as long as you're careful with it. I also like gambling, so underweight is easy to deal with. Just eat like a Discord mod for 2 to 3 days. I couldn't have said it better myself. Overweight smoker, hard of hearing with light eating and drinking is the best. Gotta try that sometime. I'm putting it in S. Like that's underweight is one that I always take. If I'm feeling a little goofy, I'll take very underweight, but 9 times out of 10, I'm taking just underweight. Plain and simple. This next one I think is out of shape. No, this one's unfit. Bad. Terrible. +10 for -4 fitness. Kind of up to you, but this list is up to me, and it goes in F. No, it's not worth it. Don't take it. Bad. That's all I got. Unlucky is the antithesis to lucky. It's kind of up to you. I don't really know. You've got a 10% chance of finding rare loot, plus 5% chance of failing item repairs. Meh, you can take it. I think it's a free 4 points. It's just, what's your preference, If you need 4 points, sure, I guess. It just doesn't do a lot to the gameplay, I don't think. And so I'm putting it in alright, just for fun. But it's kind of like nothing. And I've rated other traits much lower for being nothing. So, the repair thing only comes into play with cars mostly? Really? I mean, it specifies here failing item repairs, and I've never really looked into cars, so I'm not sure if it falls under that category. But even then, if you're grinding up your mechanic skill, wouldn't you want that chance of failing? Wouldn't it be more useful for the grind section of that? It's something to think about. Very underweight. For +10, you get a -2 fitness, a starting weight of 60. I think you lose it at 65 is what it's saying here. 60% melee damage, which is worse than the 80% by a little bit. Another increased trip chance and to fail at climbing tall fences. You also get 10% more fall damage, which I think makes sense, but it's also like kind of feels tacked on. I would not put it in always take because I always take underweight. Can't take both. That's goofy. But simply because it is an offshoot of underweight, it's gonna go in A. I mean, they got it. You see the pattern already here, right? Carvia, do you usually go for very underweight as opposed to underweight? I think that they're both kind of in the same boat. It's just that I have an obvious preference. I'm not trying to grab as many positive traits as possible, so I'm usually pretty more conservative with however many negative traits I take. So that brings us to weak, I think, is this one? Weak is something you gotta do some soul searching to find out if you're gonna take. It is a -5 strength with a 60% melee damage. Something I think I would hate to do, but I would absolutely do it, is take weak with one like very underweight. So weak is a -5 to strength. How much can you stack strength here? Like a negative to strength. You got weak doing -5. There's another one I'm thinking of. Just gotta find it. It's kind of surprising that's not those two. Am I really like making up traits? I am. I would love to see how far I could get stacking damage debuffs. Because I don't know if I have the resolve for that. I'm not sure if I have the mental capacity to manage that one. So, like I said, you've got to do some soul searching if you want to use weak. If you take it, why? Are you okay? Having no arms would make you stronger than someone with a weak trait. True! That's absolutely true. It's an F. I mean, where else was it gonna go? Come on, man. Now, I think I'm pretty typical with this last one. Weak stomach gives you a 200% chance of food illness, and food illness lasts shorter. I usually take it, because just don't eat bad food. You don't pull a spoodle, okay? You don't trust whatever I give you. I should have won that manhunt. Just goes to show how damaging our hubris is. So, Thoughts, concerns, questions. Do you need a therapist's number? Asthmatic plus unfit plus weak equals best combo. I think you're lying to me, and I'm going to screenshot that and call you out later. Def isn't F. Only opinion I have. Explain yourself. Elaborate. Why? Coward and S tier is an inspiring sight. Would have never guessed seen them there. I still wonder why. Curious and with all respect. Coward and S tier is because I don't think panic matters. It lowers your damage. It's a debuff. Whatever. The thing is, I just don't think it matters. I think it wears off about what, 4 or 5 months in. You shouldn't be taking on that many zombies at once anyway. And if you find yourself in a precarious situation and your options are run or fight and you choose to fight, knowing you took cowardly, by the way, why? Now, if you don't have a choice, that's kind of, that's just luck of the draw or whatever. But yeah, cowardly is fine. I've just always taken it. Like, it doesn't affect the game really. To me. It might to some people. No sound makes for an entirely different game experience, and if you're playing with friends, it really just ends up being a funny bit more than a hindrance. I'll give you that, yeah. I don't think I'm gonna change my mind though, because I usually just take it from memes. And I will say, this isn't law. I wouldn't be that arrogant today. I should have done this way earlier. Oh, there he is. There we go. Little man.